Hi everyone. I am very excited to say that joining me on this week's show of We Mean Business is the wonderful Philippa Hann from Clarke Willmott Solicitors. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, I'm good. I'm a bit depressed by the weather, but I'm good.
It is awful, isn't it? Like, I've got a jumper on. Today I've had like a great big long jacket on, and you just wouldn't believe it's nearly June.
I know. Bring on the sunshine. Bring on the sunshine.
I hope we get it soon. I hope we get loads of it. This time last year it was boiling, but hopefully it'll come back soon. So for anyone who doesn't know, Philippa is the Head of Litigation and Equity Partner at Clarke Willmott Solicitors, and she is also a dual qualified solicitor and financial advisor. So to start things off, Philippa, can you tell us a bit about why you do what you do?
Oh gosh, why I do what I do. Do you know what? I love what I do. It's such an interesting world to be in. I mean, like most of us, I didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to be a dual qualified lawyer and financial advisor. Like most people, I fell into it a little bit. I wanted to qualify as a lawyer and did that, discovered that I loved litigation, and then an opportunity came up at Clarke Willmott for an associate to join their financial services litigation team. And it looked interesting, and I applied for it and got the job, and just discovered that it was a whole new world which has literally changed my life.
Wow. So can you tell us a bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
So, I mean, when I joined the firm, I was purely doing financial services litigation and was involved in the Equitable Life debacle. Look, I joined at the tail end of the first pensions review, and then worked my way up. I now head up the litigation division, so I have 120 lawyers that I lead. So we do things from financial services litigation to insolvency, to your more general litigation type work, debt recovery, contractual disputes, etc. I do a lot of thinking about how to make things better, both within sort of the financial services litigation side of things and the firm more generally. I do a lot of people development. I try and work out how to turbocharge people. There's an enormous amount of people out there who have one foot on the accelerator and one foot on the brake. I do a lot of listening. I do a lot of being curious. And I do a lot of asking questions. So it's unusual for me to be on the other side of this, Chanelle.
Amazing. It sounds so interesting. So interesting. And at what point did you decide you wanted to be dual qualified as a solicitor and a financial advisor?
Well, that came about when I joined the firm, and I joined the financial services litigation team. And it was something that I wanted to do because how can I sit there and talk to other financial advisors if I don't understand? So I took my diploma the first time round, and then RDR happened, and then I had to upgrade my qualification. So I did that. So it's part. I don't advise. I'm not authorised. I wouldn't advise anybody. But it's really part and parcel of me being curious about what I do, and wanting to really truly understand the industry as well as I can. And it's so interesting from a personal perspective as well to just understand finance so much better. I think everyone will agree that financial education is something that everybody needs to do more of.
Yeah. And did you find that made a big difference to your role once you took those exams and you became qualified as financial advisor? Did that make a big difference to your everyday role?
It made a big difference to my understanding of what it is that financial advisors do, the difficulties, the technicalities. It improved the quality of the conversations that I was having with financial advisors, and it improved my ability to look at a piece of advice and say, I'm not sure this is right. I think there's some other questions that should be asked.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And over the past few years, you've been working with steelworkers caught up in the BSPS scandal. What are some of the most rewarding moments you've seen so far? Because I'm sure it's been an interesting time and you've seen all sorts, but what are some of maybe the best, most rewarding moments you've had?
So I've been doing, specialising in group litigation for most of my career. So I was involved in the pension transfer stuff the first time round, with Equitable Life, with a lot of the banking crisis. After that, we did some of the film scheme stuff. But what's different about the British Steel pension transfer work is the people. These are not high net worth individuals. These are people who have lived and worked in the same place all of their lives. Their dads worked at the steelworks. Their grandfathers were, in the same business, and such a close-knit community. And this has had such a huge effect on them in terms of their ability to trust people. A lot of them feel very upset that they feel that someone's taken advantage of them. They've lost a lot of trust in professionals. And so there's been some really strong moments where I've had 50, 60-year-old strong, burly steelworkers literally crying in my office over what's happened to them. So that's to be able to make a difference to those people has been really powerful. I've also learned so much about the power of our MPs. I have to give a special mention to Nick Smith MP and to Stephen Kinnock MP. I've been working with them over the last couple of years, along with Al Rush, and we've hauled the FSCS and the FOS and the FCA into Westminster. And the first time we did it, I sat there and I had the chief executive of the FOS, of the FSCS, and significant representatives from the FCA. And Nick Smith simply said, Philippa, what questions would you like to ask them? And actually getting to the right people and having the right conversations has made a world of difference. When we first started getting in the compensation payments from the FSCS, they just weren't right. They were too low, and they'd missed out a load of the calculations, and I just couldn't get through to them. So getting the right people into Westminster and being able to get them to answer the questions there and then, where there is accountability and responsibility, that has been enormously powerful. I've also been working with the FCA over the last couple of years because I feel really passionately that actually in areas where there is sometimes quite a bit of social deprivation, if you are taking away the ability of people in retirement to spend money, to feel safe in retirement, to take their grandchildren out for an ice cream or for dinner, you're not affecting just those individuals, you are affecting an entire community. And so I guess what I've learned is that there is a real power in being brave. And so there was one evening where I was feeling particularly frustrated, and so I just emailed Andrew Bailey, who at the time was chief executive of the FCA, and vented my frustration in quite a long email to him. Saturday morning, he emailed me back and said, I'd like to talk to you direct. Let's meet. And I've been working with the FCA ever since then. And we met only a couple of weeks ago, where I'm very frustrated by the insurance provision within financial services. I don't think it's good enough. And after many, many, many conversations, talking to Sheldon Mills, who's head of supervision now at the FCA, it finally felt like I was getting through to them and that there was a conversation to have. So it's been a huge journey over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. It just sounds like you're making such amazing progress.
It's been a bit of a hard slog, and I always say to my team, energy and persistence conquer all things, and I really think that's true. So if you can see the poster behind me, but the blue one says, it's like wrestling a gorilla. You don't stop when you're tired, you stop when the gorilla is tired. There's a lot more to do, but the confidence that I've got now in having a platform and being able to go out there and have those conversations and really bang on the door about something that I think is really, really important, that has given me the confidence to just keep going with this.
Yeah, and you mentioned your team there and energy and things like that. And I know you're passionate about driving good culture in a business. And what are maybe some of the symptoms of a bad culture in a business? Because this has been talked about, I've heard more and more recently, and I never really thought about, when I go to an interview, actually asking about the culture. But as time's gone on, I've actually thought, you need to ask that, and you need to make sure it's right for you.
Do you know what? There's so many different ideas of what culture is, and all of them will be right and all of them will be wrong. For me, it's about how you make people feel. It's the experience that you create for those around you. And do I think that those advisors who advised, a couple of hundred people to transfer out of the British Steel pension are bad people? No, I don't. I don't think they woke up one morning thinking I'm going to do a bad thing. I think that in a culture where there is a purpose that is more than just about money, where there is a purpose about making a difference to people's lives, and you look at yourself and say, why am I doing this? Why do I get up in the morning and do what I do? I tell you what's a really good measure of culture is how people feel on a Sunday night. I don't know if you've ever worked anywhere where on a Sunday night you get that kind of rising feeling of dread and you don't want to go to work tomorrow and you're trying to hold on to the weekend. If you feel like that, I would question what your culture is. Because actually what I would want to see is a culture where people feel psychological safety. They can raise issues. They can say if they see something which is a problem. I mean, the people who were, the juniors who were sat in those firms where large chunks of people were being badly advised to transfer out, were they feeling uncomfortable? Were they thinking to themselves, I'm not sure this is right? Were the rewards around a slap on the back for we've made loads of money this month? Or is it, do you know what, a slap on the back for you built a really beautiful relationship there? That's a really important thing. It's status versus relationship. So that Sunday night feeling is really, really important. That psychological safety is really, really important. The ability to be curious, the ability to have autonomy over what you do and how you do it within the confines of those very important compliance things. And really a purpose which is far deeper than let's make as much money as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's so true what you say about the Sunday night. I think most of us will have been in a job at some point where you get to Sunday night and you think, oh, I don't want to get up tomorrow morning. I don't want to go to work. And I think sometimes you feel like you just have to, and you just have to get on with it and do it. But really, maybe if you start with a conversation or you start thinking about, is this not right for me? Do I need to look elsewhere and do something to change it? Because no one should have to sit there on a Sunday and think, I don't want Monday to come because it's awful.
Yeah, and you think about the behaviours. I've worked in a place like that, and what were the behaviours for me? The behaviours were finger pointing, they were blame, it was a lack of support, it was a lack of that psychological safety. I felt frightened to mention something. I couldn't be me. And so if you're working in somewhere that behaves like that, then maybe you should find somewhere. There are so many brilliant and amazing financial services firms where actually you are encouraged to develop yourself and be yourself and to really drive that purpose around making the world a better place. Work in one of those places, I say.
Definitely. And tying quite nicely with that, actually, we've chatted before that you work with a coach, which I am quite fascinated by. What would you say are the benefits of working with a coach? I think a lot of us have maybe heard about them or seen them, but I don't know much about working with a coach.
Well, this is one of the ways that working in the financial services industry has really changed my life. Lawyers don't usually have coaches. It's much more prevalent in financial services, and because I've had so many people be so, despite what I do, have been so kind and generous and sort of allowed me to join in with conversations within financial services. So I have an amazing coach. I've worked with him for a couple of years. The difference between the Philippa Hann now and the Philippa Hann before I started working with my coaches is enormous. So the big difference to me is that we all experience those negative emotions, so what we'd call survival emotions, so anger, fear, distrust, disgust, all of those negative emotions. And when you experience those negative emotions, which when you're in a professional role happen to you, it's frightening to have a conversation with someone that you're not confident enough to have a conversation with. Something goes wrong, things do go wrong. And if you were in a negative mindset, and we all do it, your brain just doesn't work properly. And so you don't make good decisions when you are afraid. And that comes back to the culture piece. If you're too frightened to speak up, you don't speak up generally, or you do it in a way which is not particularly effective. So it's about examining those thought processes and saying, well, you know, one of the first conversations I had with my coach was, what is the conversation you least want to have? And we talked around the fact that I really didn't want to have this conversation with somebody, and why I didn't want to have that conversation. And I tell you what now, Chanelle, I am such a warrior when it comes to having conversations that I don't want to have. And you know what? I have not died from having a conversation that I didn't want to have. We've all got conversations. I want you to think right now about having that one conversation that you really don't want to have with the person that you least want to have it with. And there will be a reason why you don't want to do that. So what I've learned through having a coach is to really find a bit of quiet in my head. I think sometimes we're quite unkind to ourselves, and when things go wrong, we blame ourselves and we shy away from doing things because we don't like to fail, we don't like to get things wrong. And it's really allowed me to go full blast forward with the projects that I think are really, really important, that I think before I probably wouldn't have had the conversations around in order to try and, as I say, turbocharge those people around me. And so it's really allowed me to put my foot on the accelerator when the only person that was holding me back was me.
Yeah, amazing. That's fascinating. It's so interesting. And I think what you say about quiet is so true. It's like, I know when I was literally driving back from the office earlier, I was thinking about all these things and my brain's very like, and I'd gone half the wrong way home. And I suddenly thought, where am I going? I'm not even going the right way. And it was just because I wasn't paying any attention and my brain was thinking about all these things that I could do and I could do later and I should have done before I left. And when actually I should have just said, right, I'll deal with that when I sit down and actually could do anything, because I can't even do anything. I'm driving and I'd gone half the wrong way home. So
there's a brilliant metaphor actually for it in general, because you know you can waste so much time inside your own head saying, well, I can't do that because I can't have that conversation because, and nobody will want to hear what I have to say because, when actually you could just do the thing and get it done. And I have to say, all the conversations I've had over the last couple of years that I really, truly, in the moment, have not wanted to have, I literally can't remember them now. Yeah. Because they're in the past, they're dealt with. I've moved on, I've moved forward, and you know, action is always good. So that is what a coach has done for me.
Amazing. I feel like I need to go find myself one. So we find that the financial planning profession is hugely supportive, and I know you've already mentioned that you spend a lot of time and chat with some amazing people, and lots of people in the profession like to give back to others. How much has our profession helped you over the years? Because I assume you must be speaking to us guys all the time.
All the time. But you know what? You guys are so much better at being a profession than lawyers are. You have so much better conferences. You know, what I've learned is you're so much better at challenging yourselves, to think around people, around behaviours. Lawyers can be a bit, well, I'm the lawyer in the room and therefore I must be right. And not questioning themselves and not challenging themselves. Being involved in financial services industry has broadened my mind, it's broadened my horizons. It's encouraged me to be braver, it's encouraged me to be kinder. You know, you guys are so philanthropic. I've learned so much about giving from the people that I've met in financial services, and not only giving of money and charity and all the rest of it, but also giving of time and expertise. The people who have been involved in financial services have been so much more generous with their knowledge and their experiences with me than any other lawyer has. It's been a real joy, and actually when I've been brave enough to say to people, I think you're really interesting, can I have a coffee with you? Literally no one has ever said no. And that has been huge for me, absolutely huge. And those people have also recommended that I talk to other people. And so I've grown because I've been able to take on board their experiences and share. And it's like, sharing that. I think that sometimes people think that if you keep things to yourself, then yeah, great, I can be really successful because I keep it to myself. Life just literally never ever works like that. The best thing you can do absolutely is share your knowledge, share your good fortune, and that has been absolutely life-changing for me. And thank you to everybody who has talked to me along the way. They probably won't even know how much they've changed my life, but they really, really have. So everybody out there, if there's somebody that you want to talk to, just drop them a note on LinkedIn, contact them on Twitter, email them, have a conversation. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation. And my experience is that no one has ever said no to me, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. And it's funny you say that. I would have never have done that, like message somebody out of the blue, maybe 6 months, probably literally just 6 months ago. Before that, I wouldn't have done it. And the last 6 months, I don't even know really why I've done it. I just randomly message a few people that I think are interesting, or I can learn from them, or I can just see we would get on well. I said, oh, do you want a virtual coffee? And like you said, no one's ever said no. They always say yes. And every time I come away from one, I'm like, that was amazing. It was so great. So, and I was talking to a recruiter the other day, and she was sort of giving her tips, and she said that the exact same thing. If you're looking to get into the industry, if you're starting out, or even if you're halfway through your career, if you want to learn something or make a new connection, just ask them for a coffee, and I guarantee they'll probably say yes.
Yeah, because they probably can't give you work experience, but ask them for something they can give you. And I've had people contact me and say, can I have some of your time? And you know what? It's such a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet new people and hear about things. So, I mean, it's a bonus for both sides, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what tips would you give maybe someone coming into the profession, whether they're young or they're not young, anyone really? What tips would you give them coming into the financial planning profession?
Well, it's difficult because I'm a lawyer rather than a financial advisor. But I think anyone coming into a profession my top tips would be curious, be the eternal student, be interested, and the more you learn, the more you will enjoy it. Share as much as you can, spend time lifting other people up, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. I think we come into these and we say to ourselves, I must be this. We tell ourselves a story about what we must be, who we must be, how we must behave. And we find ourselves wanting in so many ways. We don't accept that. Do you know what? I'm at the beginning of my career, and of course I don't know the answer to that because I've never come across it before. But it's an opportunity. There's always an opportunity, and whatever disaster scenario has happened to you, and we all have those days, there is always an opportunity. So that curiosity around, you know what, I forever will be a student. There is always something more to learn. There is always someone interesting to talk to. Read as many books as you can, get recommendations from other people about books. I mean, I'm quite annoying when I read a book, like one that really kind of sparks some thoughts in me, because I spend my whole time like just emailing my team going, oh, what about this? I need to ask you a question. This is a really great thing and we need to implement that. And then I phone people and go, did you know about this? I was reading this really interesting book the other day and it's really changed my mind. And I have a booklet. I'd really recommend, not necessarily journaling, but that reflective learning. So when things happen to you, think what you've learned from it. When you read a book, write down what you find really interesting from it, because then you've got it all in one place. If you see some interesting stuff on Twitter or an interesting article, put it in your reflections notebook, and then go back to it, because there will always be a time where you'll look back and go, oh, I'd forgotten, I found that really interesting, and pop it down. So I carry this with me all the time.
That's really interesting. I think that's something, because like you said, I love reading, absolutely love reading, and quite a lot of books, like you said, I get to the end and it's like they've completely changed my whole mindset and I'm going to live life differently now. But at the time I think that, and I think it does affect me day to day going forward, but I don't, some of those points that I maybe read at the time and thought, that's amazing, like that is like the best thing I've ever read, it's so interesting, I wouldn't remember that. Whereas if I wrote it down and came back to it, I'd have that moment all over again.
Yeah. Or you'd go back to it and go, maybe that wasn't quite as important as I thought it was.
It's great.
Or what did I mean by that? But it is, and I think it's really good to do. And when you're on a train or hopefully on a plane soon, you can go back to your reflections and just go, do you know what, actually, rather than scrolling through social media, because you can't when you're on a plane, you can have a look at your reflections notebook and say, actually, what was it that I meant to do? How did I want to do things differently?
I love that. I think that's a really amazing takeaway that people could do, and I'm definitely going to give it a go. So when we chatted before, you told me you're a single mother of 3 kids, which is amazing, and I would love to know how you balance your home time and your work life, because I think everyone struggles sometimes to get that balance right. So how do you do it?
I think quite badly, quite often. It's such a fallacy, isn't it, that there is a balance. It's just, you know, I read an article a while ago where they were talking about like an old-fashioned stovetop burner where there's 4 burners, like gas burners, and one of them is your career, one of them is your family, one of them is your relationships, and one of them is your health. And you can go full burn on one, maybe 2 of those at any one time, but not all 4. You just cannot do all 4. And making your peace with that is quite a relief, actually. I can't do all of those things, just can't do it. But just making sure that none of those burners, you know, at any one time, you've got one of your burners burned bright, and that you don't leave one of your burners not burning bright at any point. The other thing is, I think being able to be where you are and do what you're doing at the time that you're doing it. So when you're working, and you are thinking about, so there's a really great podcast called The Manager Tools, which talks around managing your inbox and your emails and what does it mean to prioritize. So you have your priorities, and if you are not working on your priorities for a significant proportion of most days, they're not actually your priorities. So working out what your priorities are, you know, moving away from the I've got to do what's urgent, into I've got to do what's important, and working through the important things and making sure that you're getting those done. And when I'm with my girls, I've got 3 girls, it's being with them, and it's not being half with them. It's not answering emails at the same time as being with them. It's, you know, I'm not any other mums out there, I don't know if you are, Chanelle, but my daughter once said to me, Mummy, can you put your phone down now, please? So I learned from that. And it's about, for me, it's about building memories, like doing the silly stuff that builds the memories. It's about not worrying whether I've hoovered the stairs. I'd rather go out and play football in the park, and finding the joy in every day, finding the joy in what you do, both from a work perspective and whatever it is that you do outside of that. There was a really good quote the other day that I saw, I can't remember who it was, apologies to whoever it was, which was, everyone will die, but not everyone will truly live. And there really is something in that around, you know, make memories, have fun, find the opportunities to laugh, find the opportunities to really have fun, and those moments when you look back and say, oh my goodness, you know, over lockdown, we got the mattresses off the stairs with the girls, and off the beds, and we put them down the stairs, and then we piled the bottom of the stairs with like duvets and things, and then we got sleeping bags, and we all slid down.
Amazing.
so much fun. It was so much fun. So be where you are, I think is my, I try and I fail so much, but that's what I try and do.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. And I totally understand what you mean. I read a book not very long ago and it was called something really silly, like How to Break Up with Your Phone. And it seemed really silly, but I just got to a point where I was like, I'm not even looking at anything. I don't care about these things. I'm missing what's around me. And I read this book and it pointed out so many things. I thought, why am I sitting on my phone? And it did, although it was a bit of a silly book, it did change my mindset. And more times I would pick up my phone and think, actually, I'm going to put that down and do something else that actually I'm enjoying doing, or even if it's a walk around the block or playing with the dog or just not being sat on my phone missing time.
Yeah, make it count.
Yeah, amazing. So we are coming to the end now, but I would like to ask you for a book or podcast recommendation that our audience would find inspiring. I feel like you probably got loads you can list off, but if you could pick one for us, that would be amazing.
So I have two things. One is a book and one is actually a course. So the book that I think has probably affected me the most is a book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, which is a book about fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. And it was quite a relief to read the book because it basically says IQ is not a thing. IQ is just a test for one particular moment in time. And there is always an opportunity to grow. There is always an opportunity to learn. And when you're in those dark moments, when you think, I can't do this, I'm not good enough to do this, then thinking back to that book and saying, well, do you know what, that's just not true. It's not true. I can learn. I can step back from this. I can be better, and there's always an opportunity to be better. So that book I thoroughly recommend, and that's the book I always recommend to everybody. And so we've been talking about coaching, and we've been talking about mindset, we've been talking about being kind to yourself and those survival emotions versus being able to really push yourself forward. There's a coaching course which is absolutely excellent, which is called Know Thyself, run by Tina Weeks and Julian Dalabita. That is, I think, a life-changing course for people to do in terms of them managing their own emotions and being able to grow in a way which is just really, really positive about them and about the world around them. So those are my two big recommendations.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Honestly, I feel like I've learned so much. I feel like I could listen to you talk for hours. It's really relaxing. I feel like I've learned loads. Honestly, thank you so much. And that is all we have time for today. But I have really, really enjoyed speaking to you, Philippa. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, me too.
And of course, thank you guys in our audience for watching. On next week's show, we will have another inspiring, amazing woman from the world of finance. And if you want to keep informed, please do sign up to the mailing list and you can watch previous videos and find out who's coming up next. So we will post in the chat a link to sign up to that. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely weekend in hopefully some nice weather, and we will see you all next Friday.